Welcome to the A Digital Podcast, and today we are going to discuss Iran-Israel war. More specifically, Iran's claims that it shot down Israel's 4 F-35 fighter jets. We are going to discuss how credible are Iran's claims and if it's really possible to shot down such a smart next-generation fighter jets with decades-old technology that Iran possesses. So, picking up on that specific claim, the details we've been looking at really center on a claim not of 4 jets, but specifically 2 Israeli F-35. That's the number that seems to be the focus, right?
Yeah, that's right. The narrative floating around mentions 2, and that really brings us to the core issue, doesn't it? The technical side. How believable is that really when you compare, the F-35's capabilities against what Iran likely has?
Exactly. And that contrast is, well, it's pretty stark.
Incredibly sharp, yeah. On one side, you've got this F-35 Lightning II. It's a 5th-generation fighter. I mean, consistently called the most lethal, most survivable, most connected fighter out there.
Survivable being the key word here, I think.
Definitely. Its whole design is about being incredibly hard to find, hard to target, hard to shoot down.
Okay, let's really get into why, though. What makes it so tough? Everyone throws around stealth, but what does that practically mean for this plane?
Right, stealth. Or the technical term is low observability. And no, it's not an invisibility cloak like in the movie.
Right, not quite science fiction.
Not quite. It just means the plane's designed from the ground up to be really hard to detect. Primarily by radar, but also by infrared sensors, even radio signals.
How do they do that with radar?
Well, a big part is the shape. You see how the edges on the wings, the body, the little panels, they're all aligned.
Yeah, they look very specific, very angled.
They are. They're designed to bounce radar waves away from the radar source, not backed towards it. Scatter the signal, basically.
So it doesn't give a clear echo back.
Exactly. And then you've got special radar absorbent coatings on the skin. They literally soak up some of the incoming radar energy.
Okay, so shape and materials.
And, this is crucial, the F-35 carries its weapons and fuel inside, in internal bays.
Ah, unlike older fighters with missiles and bombs hanging off the wings.
Precisely. Those things are like giant radar reflectors. Keeping everything inside massively shrinks the plane's radar signature. They've also worked to mask the engine's heat signature, too, which helps against infrared detection.
Okay, so it's a whole package deal shape. Coatings, internal carriage makes it hard to find. But what if something does manage to detect it or try to lock on?
That's where its electronic warfare system comes in. It's very advanced. It's not just passive. It actively jams or disrupts threats. Enemy radar, missile guidance systems, that sort of thing.
So it fights back electronically.
In a way, yes. It tries to confuse or neutralize the threat before it can actually engage the F-35 effectively. It's like a dynamic electronic shield.
Okay, so stealth helps it hide. Electronic warfare helps it fight back if found. Sounds like the pilot must have an incredible amount of information to manage.
Which leads to another core thing, sensor fusion and connectivity. The F-35 doesn't just rely on its own sensors, though they're very advanced radar, infrared, electronic listening. It pulls in data from other places, too, other planes, ground units, ships, even satellites and cyber intelligence, and it fuses all that together.
Fuses it.
Yeah, it combines everything into one clear picture for the pilot, real-time overview of the entire battle space. It's often called the quarterback of the skies because it can share this combined picture with other friendly forces.
Wow, that level of awareness must be huge.
It's a massive advantage for making quick decisions and staying safe.
And while it's all very high-tech, it's still a fighter jet. Speed, maneuverability, are those still important?
Oh, absolutely. People focus on the stealth and electronics, but it's still very fast and agile. It can hit Mach 1.6. That's, 1,900, maybe 2,000 kilometers per hour?
Pretty quick.
Yeah, that speed helps it get places fast or, evade threats if needed. It complements the stealth and the electronic warfare.
Now, Israel has its own version, right? The F-35I Ardir. Any key differences there?
Right, the Adir. Lockheed Martin did create a specific version for Israel. It allows them to integrate some of their own unique Israeli-developed systems onto the platform.
Okay, so some customization.
Exactly. And what's really relevant here is Israel's track record with the F-35. They were actually the first country outside the U.S. to use it in combat. That was back in 2018 over Syria.
Okay, so it's seen action.
Definitely. They've used it in the recent Gaza conflict, too. And their F-35s have scored some significant firsts. An Israeli F-35 got the very first F-35 air-to-air kill against drones, Iranian drones, back in 2021.
Drones, okay.
And then, just last year, 2023, an F-35I got the first ever combat kill of a cruise missile by an F-35. Intercepted one launched by the Houthis.
So it's proven against drone threats and missile threats in
Right.
real combat situations.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant context for this claim.
It absolutely is. It shows the platform isn't just theoretical, it performs under pressure in complex environments.
How many of these does Israel actually operate?
The numbers from late 2022 suggested around 36 F-35s were in service, with plans for more. And these things aren't cheap. Each F-35I costs around $100 million.
$100 million each. So if Iran's claim of downing 2 were true, you're talking $200 million just wiped off the board.
Financially, yes. A significant hit.
Okay, so we've got a clear picture of this incredibly advanced, combat-proven aircraft. Now let's look at the other side. What about Iran's military capabilities, specifically things that could potentially threaten an F-35?
Right. Well, looking at Iran's Air Force itself, their fighter jets, it's a different era, really. They have about 300 fighters, mostly older U.S. and Russian designs from the 1970s.
Like what kinds of planes?
You're looking at things like F-4 Phantoms, F-5 Tigers, some Chinese F-7s, the old F-14 Tomcats they got before the revolution, and some Russian Sukhoi and MiG-29 jets.
Okay, so definitely older generation aircraft, decades old.
Yes, designed long before concepts like integrated stealth and advanced electronic warfare were really, mature or even conceived in the same way.
So, if their fighter fleet is older, how do they compensate? Where have they focused their efforts?
Missiles. Definitely missiles. Ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and also surface-to-air missile systems. That's where Iran has invested heavily to build up both defensive and deterrent power.
Any specific examples?
Yeah, we know about things like the Shahab 1, short range, maybe 300 kilometers. The Zulfikar cruise missile, they say 700 kilometers. Then you get into longer range ballistic missiles like the Sejil claimed range of 2,500 kilometers.
2,500 kilometers, that's well beyond Israel, potentially reaching parts of Europe.
Theoretically, yes. And they've also talked up their Al-Fatah hypersonic missile recently.
Okay, so a definite focus on missile technology. But when they made this claim about shooting down the F-35s, did they actually say how? Did they mention using a specific missile or maybe one of their older jets?
That's the thing. The information we have on the claim itself, it doesn't specify what system they supposedly used, just that they claimed the shoot down, no details on the how.
Okay, which brings us right back to assessing the credibility. Iran says they shot down 2 F-35s. It was reported in their media, sometimes emphasizing that $200 million potential loss for Israel. Israel, on the other hand, flatly denies it.
A clear denial from the Israeli side.
So putting it all together, the F-35's documented stealth, its electronic warfare, its sensor fusion, its combat record against drones and missiles, versus Iran's reliance on older jets and their known missile tech. How does the claim stack up technically?
Well, technically, it looks very, very difficult. I mean, the F-35 is designed precisely to defeat the kinds of threats posed by older air defense systems and radar networks.
Just detecting it would be the first massive challenge, right?
Exactly. Detecting a low observable aircraft like the F-35 typically requires much more modern, sophisticated radar systems, often operating in different frequency bands or using advanced processing techniques specifically designed to counter stealth. Older radars, they really struggle. The F-35's small radar cross-section and its jamming capabilities make it incredibly hard to get a solid lock.
So step one, finding it, is already a huge hurdle for the kind of tech Iran is generally understood to operate.
A very big hurdle. And then, okay, let's say, hypothetically, a system gets a fleeting detection. Getting a stable track, guiding a missile accurately towards a supersonic maneuvering target that's actively jamming you, that's another massive layer of difficulty.
Especially when, as you said, the F-35's electronic warfare is designed to specifically break those missile locks.
Precisely. That's its job.
And we already mentioned its combat history, taking out drones, taking out a cruise missile. That real-world performance has to count for something here.
It absolutely does. It demonstrates that the F-35's survivability features aren't just theoretical specs on paper. They work in actual combat against real threats. While maybe a very advanced future ballistic missile could pose a different kind of threat in certain scenarios, the claim here seems to be about an air defense engagement during an operation.
Right, implying either surface-to-air missiles or maybe their own fighters managed it.
And the F-35 is built specifically to survive encounters with those types of threats. That's the whole point of its stealth, its EW suite.
So when you really contrast the F-35, its low observability, its active defenses, its internal carriage, its proven combat record against the general understanding of Iran's capabilities, particularly their older fighters and the likely sophistication of their associated air defense radars, the technical feasibility of them successfully detecting, tracking, and destroying 2 F-35 seems, well, highly improbable.
Highly improbable is a good way to put it. The entire design philosophy of a fifth-generation fighter like the F-35 is to operate and survive in environments protected by previous generations of air defense technology. Could any plane theoretically be shot down given a perfect storm of circumstances? Maybe. But the F-35 is engineered specifically to make that an extraordinarily difficult task, especially for the kinds of systems Iran is known to possess based on available information. The technological gap is just immense.
So this is it for today. The situation is rapidly evolving, and we will try to keep you updated. Please subscribe our YouTube channel and follow on social media. Our handle is 8digitalco. See you in the next podcast. Keep listening.